Ah.
All right, it's loading. All right, so we're live. How's everybody doing this evening?
Fine, and you?
Stephanie.
Good, good. We're just going to give everybody a few minutes to hop on our live stream. There's a little bit of a delay on the Facebook side, so we'll just give everybody a few minutes. So thank you all so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having us.
No
So what
problem.
does it look like? Can I go on Facebook and like look at it?
Yeah, you can. Yep.
I got,
like
I got a
double in
notification.
Inception.
Yeah, it looks like that.
Ah,
Inception like. Okay, so we've got a few viewers. Hi, everybody. We hope everybody is hanging on and doing well as best as you can right now. Thank everybody for continuing to, log on and, like our content and share everything and just continue to be with us during this time. We really, really appreciate it. And technology like this just allows us to continue to stay connected. So I really appreciate you all for joining. Special shout out to our panelists tonight. We have Rodney Harry, Andrea Hart.
hi. My Facebook name is not my real last name, but that's for privacy. It used to be Meow. That's what the MW is.
Clever. And then we have Joey Stemmle.
Hey.
Awesome. So tonight we are gonna go over a little bit of advice and some just points about how to grow your chapter and be a successful chapter with VCU alumni. And these three leaders have been with us for varying amounts of time, some longer, some started more recently. So they can give some really good pointers on how to grow a chapter, over years, or kind of how to get right in there and get things going. So we're excited to hear from them and their perspectives on leading both like regional and affinity groups. So first, I just wanted to start off with having everybody kind of introduce themselves. So can you tell me about yourself and how you got involved with VCU alumni? So we'll start with Rodney.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Rodney Harry. I am the current president of the African American Alumni Council. I have been affiliated with the African American Alumni Council since approximately 2004, 2005. I've done several tours of duty, if you will, as the parliamentarian, and then I eventually rose to the position as president in 2014. And believe it or not, I've been president of the African American Alumni Council since 2014. However, my term does expire on June 30th of this year. And even though I've been in the office all that time, it's kind of sad that I'm moving on.
Well, we've been lucky to have you for so long, Rodney, and you've been a great asset to the AAAC, really building it up for all these years. So welcome, thank you. What about you, Andrea?
Hi there. My name is Andrea Hart, class of 2012 and Tri Sigma alumna. I got involved with the DMV chapter, I guess via Facebook, when I would see that they would have events. If you're not familiar with the DMV area, which is not the Department of Motor Vehicles, it's DC, Maryland, Virginia, the geographic area is really big. So I promised myself if there was an event in DC proper, which was easier for me to access, that I would go. So went to that event and met a lot of folks on the leadership team, including our chapter president, Ike Smith, and reached out to Ike pretty soon after that event to say I wanted to participate. So I guess that was fall 2018. So I've been involved and recently been in charge of events and social media for the chapter, which those two events, those two kind of functions are pretty related. So it kind of made sense, since I was willing to take on the challenge. It made sense for me to play that role for the chapter, and been doing that for, I guess, a little over a year, and really enjoy it.
Nice. Awesome. We're happy to have you. Hi, Joey.
Hey, good evening. Joey Stemmle, School of Business 2013. I think I got involved originally with VCU Alumni shortly after graduation with a group called RVA Gold, which was the graduates of the last decade. So Timmy Wynn had kind of recruited us to come out to various events, and started showing up to some of the monthly meetings, and then I got involved in RVA Gold for a number of years. And then I guess back in 2016 or 2017, we kind of morphed into the Richmond alumni chapter. And I guess since 2017, I've been the president of the Richmond chapter. So it's been a pretty fun ride. And then I've had some involvement with the Business Alumni Society, which is the school business alumni group.
Awesome. And it's been great working with the Richmond chapter and my chapters for the past couple of years that I've been with VCU Alumni. So awesome. Thank you all again for joining. And if you all have questions for all of our viewers, our chapter leaders, and our staff, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments for the live video. And we'll answer a few questions. We'll have our panelists answer a few questions, and then we'll go to kind of like an open Q&A. So if you think of anything, type it in so we can come back to it once our main questions are answered. So my next question for you all is, can you tell us about your first year as a chapter leader, what it was like, some of the challenges, and kind of how you came out of that year feeling, and kind of what made you stick around? Andrea, I know you've been with VCU Alumni for about a year now, so maybe we'll start with you and just kind of tell us how your first year has been.
Okay, certainly. So I would say the past year, and it's been a little over a year, but I've almost kind of blocked out the past couple months. But we have been doing stuff behind the scenes, and unfortunately had to make a lot of cancellations. But our chapter has absolutely been in a period of growth for the past few years. And so I wanted to bring my kind of event planning expertise and help be effective in making us continue to grow. So that's been a goal of ours. We do have proud to kind of boast the second largest, most active chapter after Richmond, but we'll always kind of be chasing their coattails a little bit. So that's been kind of our, I guess, theme of the past year, 18 months, has been growth and figuring out how to harness this big region into one group and one unified group of alumni.
Absolutely. And Rodney, your first year, you said, was 2004, correct?
2004, yeah.
How was that year for you? How was it first stepping into being involved and leading the AAAC?
It was interesting. I say it was interesting because I had a lot of things going on, not only in my VCU life or past career, but in my personal life. I had failed to mention, I graduated from VCU in 1990. And when I graduated, I almost immediately took a federal job and began working in the Washington, D.C. area. So I had returned to the Richmond area through transfer in approximately 2002, and had attended a couple of reunion weekends and said, hey, I wanted to fully engage myself with the African American Alumni Council. So when I went to the first meeting, I actually was very intimidated because the audience of the officers at the time were from a demographic that was different from when I was attending VCU. So not only did I have to learn about VCU alumni and the African American Alumni Council, I had to get to know and begin to fit in, if you will, with those that were the leadership at that time. And it was kind of difficult as parliamentarian because I really took, being the parliamentarian really seriously. And sometimes it really rubbed against a couple of people the wrong way, but I made it through it. And we grew and we became very close, and it's been all fun and love from that time to the present.
Gotcha. So a little bit of a curve getting in there and learning and getting to know everybody, but really a learning moment for you. Awesome. Okay. And Joey, how was your first year with the Richmond chapter, or RVA Gold at the time?
Yeah, I mean, with RVA Gold, I think we had, great support at the time, through Amy Gray. And so, I mean, we had a really open blanket slate to work with, and it was essentially just go out and do some events. I mean, do some events geared towards the graduates of the last decade. And that was really, one of our benefits was we had such a focused group. So essentially anyone that's, graduated in the last 10 years, do an event for them. So we did, with some watch parties, our general group really enjoyed basketball. So it was kind of easier to, everyone invite one or two people to this watch party. And then we kind of morphed into, Timmy went out and got some sponsorships from the restaurants. Well, we're showing up to, home team grill anyway. Why don't we get some, free appetizers and money for our future events? And it was certainly interesting because we tried out, I feel like almost everything. We did speakers on buying a house. We did speakers on financial planning. We did happy hours. We did volunteer events. We did watch parties. I mean, we really tried everything. Some things were great, some things were terrible, but I think that's just kind of part of the process. And it eventually got to the point where our focus was really on just trying to do consistent events throughout the year. How do we fill out a calendar starting with let's say a quarterly basis? And then we said, well, how about every other month? And then it got to the point where some months we had 2 or 3 events. It was all about kind of building the momentum over the long term. And I think one thing, we lost track of in the moment was, we were doing great things, but you just kind of think about the future and the next event. And you never really sat down to reflect on all the great things you were doing for VCU and VC alumni. And kind of similar to what Rodney just mentioned was, once you get involved with VCU, there's so many different tribes and groups. It's like sometimes your first year, just trying to understand all the moving parts, could be incredibly difficult.
Absolutely. So you use that first year to kind of find your niche and find what works, and then started being consistent with that.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Advice for a lot of our smaller groups that are just kind of trying to find out what works for them. There's a lot of things in a lot of different areas that you live in, and just trying things out, figuring out what works, and then kind of running with it is the name of the game. Awesome. So my next question is, how important has it been to network with other alumni to kind of build an audience for your group? And do you have any advice or best strategies for that networking? So has that been kind of like a strong point for you all, and it's something that's been important for the growth of your groups? Anybody can jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for our Richmond chapter, it's truly important, and I think we're lucky where we have a huge VCU alumni population in the Richmond area, and there's the Business Alumni Society, there's the Engineering Society, there's AAAC, the Greek Alumni Network. So we've done so many events throughout the years with these groups, just partnering with them, because I think at the end of the day, it's all about meeting your VCU alumni. And so by networking with these other groups, you meet people that you may not. If I only go to VCU Business Alumni Society events, I'm not going to meet people from different schools. So I think it's really important to kind of build out those networks, and it makes planning so much easier. And you hope that you get an even bigger crowd if our group's bringing, let's say, 20 people and AAAC is bringing 20 people to an event. And then I know we've been really lucky throughout the years, with the basketball, being able to partner with like the New York City chapter, the DMV chapter when the A10 was down there. So I think we've been very lucky to be able to not only in our own Richmond area, but across the country, be able to build those relationships.
Gotcha. So not only networking with your circle and like your personal and professional connections, but the other alumni chapters that have audiences that you can kind of pull off of and build into as well.
Mm-hmm.
In the AAAC, we've taken advantage of that opportunity in working with other organizations, not only within the VCU brand, alumni brand, but on campus overall in general. You'd be surprised how many African-American students that are currently enrolled at VCU that aren't even aware of the African-American Alumni Council. However, we have been in existence since 1989. So one of the things that we do through partnering, especially with other alumni organizations, is try to, build an identity for ourselves. We've partnered with the Richmond alumni group from time to time, watch parties as such. We have had social activities at the VMFA. Like last summer, there was a jazz event that we partnered with the Latinx group. We've done a lot of activities with the Office of Multicultural and Student Affairs, OMSA, and the Black Student Union. And so from that standpoint of view, we're kind of raising our presence on campus. And we also have networking events where we also network with our own internal members as well. So we use any and all opportunity, not only to get our name, our brand out there in the VCU community, but we also like to support our individual endeavors as well.
And I'll just add to piggyback off both those comments that, at the end of the day, networking is a crucial component to any alumni network. Connecting with people whom you've met and meeting new people, and a network kind of expands out like that. So our area is definitely known for being having a population that's very career oriented, and so our chapters tried to build a professional development component into our kind of pillars. So thanks to VCU last year, as an example, did the Elevate tour. So we had an event that was a professional development kind of networking event centered around the Amazon HQ2, which is a huge deal around here. And so kind of we've promoted that dual professional development networking type of event, as opposed to just a social or drinking event. So that's definitely something we're going to continue to work on. So if that's something that interests other chapters, we'd love to partner with them to promote those.
Nice. So building networking into the programming that you're doing.
Yes.
So we have a question in the chat, which is very similar to the next question that I was going to ask for Joey and Andrea, and that involves kind of being a leader and programming for large areas. So how do you all approach working with such a wide-reaching area? And Michaela, her next plan of action is to expand to a more regional approach. And Michaela's from Philly. I should have started off with that. She's a leader in our Philadelphia chapter. She wants to try a more regional approach because she has so many people in New Jersey and the surrounding Philly suburbs. So again, how do you all approach working with such a wide area that kind of has like different pockets of, city, suburbs, families and things like that? How do you all approach kind of programming for a wide reaching area?
I'll go first. And it's definitely been one of our goals to try to figure out how to manage such a large area. And I assume with the Metro Philly region, transportation is a barrier for some of our events. Weekday events, we have to be pretty mindful of the fact that it takes an hour more for everybody to get to an event, even if it's the most centralized place. on the flip side, Saturdays, people often want their me time. So we try to, number one, be as central as possible and see if that works as far as location. But our long-term goal, and this might be something that Philly or another metropolitan area could implement, is we're working towards having, I don't want to say working groups, but networks within networks. So the Northern Virginia area, we have what's called the Outside the Beltway group. That is very suburban. We want to have family-oriented events there. And a little bit closer to the central DC, Arlington area is, for us, the most centralized area. And then the Maryland suburbs, which is geographically a pretty large region, we've partnered with the Baltimore chapter on a couple of events specifically focused on Maryland. So in the immediate, I would recommend trying to keep it as central as possible. But then the long term, once you see where the kind of hot spots are within your network, you can progress to that more, I guess, piecemeal or networks within networks.
Thanks. And Joey, how have you all approached it in the Richmond area?
Yeah, so I'd say Richmond, the advantage is that it's a large, area, but you can essentially get anywhere within, 20 or 25 minutes, worst case. So I'd say we don't have the challenges of a New York or a DC or a Philly, but I'd also say when we build out events, we focus on maybe not every single person in your alumni group will resonate with this event. So let's build out various events that may resonate with certain groups. And realize that it's still a success. So if you have a group of people that come to the event, that network, that have a great time, it's still a success. But then we also think about the larger events and trying to bring together everyone. So I think that's something that maybe some of the other chapters that have more of these kind of subgroups could do, trying to focus on doing great programming for those various areas. And then I feel like one piece we've always had success with is like the bring a buddy piece. So you have a smaller committee, right, that's hopefully running your chapter. And it's, hey, you should try to bring one or two of your friends to this event, because I think that's how they kind of grow bigger over time. And that's how you get people engaged. Because I know with our Richmond chapter, we've had Timmy and Con and Jeff Green throughout the years, many other people that have gotten involved, and then they bring their friends, and then you get even bigger communities and more people involved there. So that's how you get better, I feel like, attendance out of events. But I think the long-term focus is on these smaller, subsections of your chapter, and then maybe 3 or 4 times a year, try to have bigger events that maybe people are willing to go out of their way for. And I think you can kind of, still have the larger brand, but then focus on the smaller pockets.
Yeah, I absolutely think that those like signature events that everybody knows is going to happen at a certain time of the year is going to come back up, and they'll at least have one big opportunity to come out and support. It is awesome to offer yearly. So my next question for you all is kind of fun, or what has been your best event or your favorite event so far that your chapter has hosted?
I'd have to say each April we have the African American Alumni Reunion Weekend, which is a weekend full of fun. It's an event that occurs over the course of 3 evenings or 3 days. We have a Friday night event. We have events going on all during the day on Saturday, to include a semi-formal dance on Saturday night. And then we have what we call a Until We Meet Again, which is kind of like a religious ceremony, where we not only pay honor to those alumni that we may have lost within the past year, and we also have brunch So I say, and I say that's my most favorite activity, the reunion weekend.
Awesome. And it always draws out lots of attendance. And sorry that we couldn't have it this year because of, everything going on with COVID-19, but that signature AAAC reunion is always a hit.
Can I just say, Rodney, that sounds amazing. That sounds every event on the itinerary you listed off sounds like a dream that our chapter might look forward to at some point in the future.
Well, I tell you, we get a lot of support. We get a lot of support from the VCU alumni staff. I mean, as example, last year, Amy came along because she wanted to witness the mocktail party. And then she just kind of came along and sort of attended all of the events. And to be honest with you, I left the dance, which was held at the VMFA at about 11:30 or so. She was still there. And then she was at our Sunday morning activity, bright and shiny. I mean, we get a lot of support from the VCU alumni staffers over the course of our weekend. They put in a lot of hours in support of our activities. And we thank you very much for that.
I mean, one of my favorite parts of my job is attending you guys' events. So it's our pleasure, really. Andrea, what's been your favorite event so far?
So this kind of pales in comparison as far as the awesome multi-day event at VMFA, but I will note that October of 2019, we had our most successful monthly social hour. In my eyes, it was our first event back from kind of our summer break where we let people have their summer to themselves. And we hosted it's our monthly third Thursday is what we call it. We have one pretty much every month. Just an easy opportunity for folks to come, always near a metro station, as I mentioned, central location. But we were at this gorgeous rooftop bar, which is right on the water in Washington. And we had, I would say, I can't remember, I wish I could remember the exact number, but we had around 50 people there, which was monumental for our chapter. And so I also will use this time to give a shout out to specifically Sarah, but the entire staff of the alumni office for your help in coordinating all of our outreach, specifically the periodic, monthly newsletters that the alumni office sends out, because I hear time and time again at events that that's how people are finding out about the chapter, finding out when the events are, and what's really motivating them to join in. So thank you for your work, Sarah and Stephanie, on really helping us get out there and continue to grow.
Absolutely. It's been awesome to see the third Thursdays grow. I remember speaking with Ike when he first started about kind of the concept of a monthly get together. And so seeing it from the time that it was just an idea to now having 50 people as of October coming out, it's awesome to see the growth. Yay. So proud of you all. And Joey, what about you? What's your favorite event? I feel like I can guess, but I'm going to let you.
I don't know. I feel like there's so many for me, especially throughout the years, some smaller milestones and some way bigger. I feel like the, ultimate backpack or the alumni charity challenge are probably up there. Just because, it brings together so many groups inside of VCU, so many groups outside of, or in the, Richmond metropolitan area. And it makes such a huge impact on the communities that we live. And I think that's so important for our groups. And I think most importantly, both of those events were something that started so small and then just grew to the point. Our first year doing the Alumni Charity Challenge, it was, 5 schools, and we raised a couple $1,000 of canned goods. And now, last year we had 40 or 41 schools participate and, raised 150,000 pounds for Feed More. And it's the second largest food drive in the state of Virginia. So just to see the growth, and then the ultimate backpack going from 50 backpacks that we threw together in the VC alumni office to the next year we had 3,000 backpacks, and we're literally just kind of chucking them into a U-Haul truck to, last year doing under, 15,000 and having UPS fill up 3 of their 18 wheelers. I mean, I think the growth of the events, the amount of people involved, and then the impact in our communities is so important. And then also, some of my favorite events have been like the New York A10 tournament also, especially in years when VCU has done well. But most importantly, I like those events because you bring together so many different alumni groups in the planning process. And you have so many VCU departments that are involved in the planning process. So to be able to see all of that come together, I think is amazing.
Nice. I definitely admire the growth that you all have achieved with Alumni Charity Challenge, especially, as well as the Ultimate Backpack. Ultimate Backpack, I mean, that shot up from one year literally to the next. So awesome. So I have a couple more questions for you all before we jump into some that have come through the chat. What are some of the tools that you've found most helpful that have been offered from VCU or from the staff that you all work with? So what are some of the most helpful ways that you've kind of seen VCU alumni relations help your chapter?
We've experienced in the African American Alumni Council, we've received a lot of support from alumni communications. Before we started working with alumni communications, we basically were limited to whatever posts or feeds that the individual officers put on their respective Facebook accounts. But we've worked with your office's communication arm, and we've gotten a lot of stuff out there. We've had a significant uptick in outreach toward our constituents, and we greatly appreciate that.
I'll go next. 3 things. I'll mention again the newsletters. It does take a bit of coordination. If there's chapters on the phone that have been missing out on that opportunity to really craft what's in those monthly newsletters, try to focus on that for a couple months and see what happens, because we have to get the content ready in advance. And I try to provide photos and an events calendar and recap of our most recent event or something like that for good content. Excuse me. But those make a difference. So if you can get in the habit of getting that content ready. I'm almost blanking on my other 2 things, but I was going to say, well, obviously having Sarah and Stephanie as an immediate resource to bounce ideas around and hear. Oh, the other thing I was going to say, this also pertains to some of the smaller chapters on things you should be thinking about, is thank you for the budget money. I know that some chapters are a little bit more self-sustaining, but we all know that it does make a difference when you spend money on, getting a free appetizer or whatever for folks, especially for us, for those weeknight Thursday events where people are coming right after work and they're almost ravenous for a little appetizer. So thank you for your help in that way. And also that the alumni office puts on events like this. So we're kind of living in this virtual space right now, and looking to you all to be an example of what works and how to be effective in the interwebs. So thank you for your leadership on that over the past couple months.
So far I'm hearing communications, and communications from the VCU side is really important, as well as funds, which is always important. So, of course. Okay, and what about you, Joey?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't think I have too much to add, but just leaning on the staff, because there's so many great staff members that are experts in what they do, and they're here to help support us as chapter leaders. So, I know personally I'm not good at communications and marketing. So being able to rely on the VC alumni staff to help, create that stuff is amazing. Something I touched on earlier, and to kind of bring it back, the annual summary piece of what you're doing, because I think sometimes it's so hard to be caught up in your day-to-day life that you never really have a chance to reflect on the great things that we're doing as chapter leaders and the accomplishments and the growth that you have with your chapter. So really taking the time to sit down, do the annual summary, reflect on the things that you've done, the things that you want to improve on, I think is really important. And, of course, like our front facing staff, Allison, Amy, Stephanie over the years have really helped us grow as a chapter. But I think a lot of people behind the scenes too, like, Joy and Henry in accounting, Booth and sponsorships, Parts with volunteers, the whole communications teams. I think we wouldn't be able to do all the things that we do as a Richmond chapter without all those. And then, something that was already said, take advantage of the grant funding. It's money out there to help you plan help fund your events. And it's there as chapter leaders. So make sure you're taking advantage of the grant funding. And I know something we've benefited from as a Richmond chapter is networking with our more, experienced alumni, people that have a lot more wisdom than us. They can provide feedback on events, ideas, strategies. That's also been a huge benefit for us.
Awesome. And speaking of communications, you all know that we've been doing our kind of monthly webinars, quarterly webinars, just about like helpful tips and resources. Our June webinar is going to be on communications. So if there are any like hot button questions, feel free to send them into your staff liaison so we can get them into the webinar and answered for you. I saw a couple come through in the comments, so we'll get to those in just a minute. But we will have a larger communications training coming up. So just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, great. Next question is about challenges. Are there any challenges that are kind of different today than they were when you first started? And maybe some things that you've seen like in the current climate or current day outside of COVID-19. We all know how big of a challenge that has been. But kind of how have your specific challenges as a group changed from when you first started to now, and how did you overcome any of them?
Can I start?
Absolutely.
So in the African American Alumni Council, our biggest challenge at the present time is trying to leverage and engage younger African American alumni. So as I indicated earlier in the conversation, we were started in 1989. And believe it or not, we have a large sample of our population from that time that are still actively engaged in the council. However, the generation X, Y, Z, A, millennials, and those type of people, we're having a hard time engaging them. And those are our leaders for tomorrow. Those are the individuals that probably would sustain the African American Alumni Council going forward. The challenge that we have, and we see it on reunion weekend, even when we have surveys and such, we listen to a certain type of music, they listen to a certain type of music. We like a certain type of social activity platform, they like, their own. Somehow or another, we got to find a way to bridge the gap where these two demographics are concerned. And we're working on that. One of the things that I'm trying to do as I'm starting to stand down as president is I'm trying to establish a succession plan for the African American Alumni Council. Believe it or not, there are more younger African American alumni at VCU than those of us that graduated, in the 80s and 90s and beforehand. So we really got to do something from the standpoint of bridging the gap between, and I don't want to make it sound as crude as that, us and them, but we have to, really get them engaged so that the African American Alumni Council can really go forward into the future. We would like to bring our leadership age down to at least that, 35 to 40-year-old person, because right now, most of us are in our late 40s and 50s. So we're really kind of out of touch with the, current alumni. So each year when we have a graduation, we try to get 2 or 3 people from a graduation class to come to a meeting and bring a couple of their friends. But our biggest challenge right now is to try to import youth into our organization.
Gotcha. So kind of having the organization's demographics match the Black alumni population's demographics. Absolutely. Thank you.
It's funny because I was going to say almost the same thing. That it seems like it's definitely more prevalent in the younger grads that they are, less likely to get out of their comfort zone and come to something out of the blue, especially if they can't get a friend to go with them. People tend to have social anxiety in that way, especially if they live in a new city or something like that, compounded with the fact that they're alone as an attendee. So we really tried to tackle that and the overall attendance challenge with engaging at all points. Oh, the other thing I would mention about the younger generation is them not getting involved is the result of a lot of them don't have Facebook, and we are on Facebook right now. So if we've only got one huge channel to get to them that isn't effective, that's an ongoing challenge. I don't think any of them are thinking I should get Facebook and that would remedy this issue. But anyway, the things that we have worked on are trying to engage folks before, during, and after an event, whether it be through Facebook or Instagram direct messages or anything like that, to connect individually with people and encourage them to participate, whether it's come to an event or come to their second event or help us do a community service project or something like that. So in addition to the kind of generational concerns, our challenge has been attendance, and so we are continuing to work on that, and stay tuned.
We will indeed stay tuned. Again, I've seen the DMV chapter grow so much, so it sounds like the challenge was kind of meeting alumni where they are as far as letting them know that you all exist. And the solution was building kind of more platforms like Instagram, for example, to get the word out. Perfect. And Joey, what's been one of your challenges and how does that compare to challenges when you first started?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many options for people to get involved in organizations now that I think you have to really, kind of sell yourself on why you're different and why people should get involved. And I think we've kind of morphed, because I know back when we first started, back in the day, the focus was almost on social stuff. And I think we've morphed into this focus now where we do social, civic, and educational events. So trying to focus on different segments of the market, just knowing that we're going to attract different people. And one thing that we've really noticed is that we get a lot of new alumni interested in getting involved through civic events, through volunteer events. I think part of that is you remove the intimidation from a happy hour. Some people just aren't very extroverted. And so it's, one of those things where if you remove the element of just having to talk, and you turn it into something where you get to maybe do some volunteer work. Of course, there's going to be conversations along the way. I think it removes that initial hurdle of being intimidated, and you're going to make an impact in the community. And we've got tons of new volunteers for that. And then, of course, when I first started, it was gold. So it was graduates of the last decade. So essentially, if we did anything revolving around a happy hour, we would get attendance. And now that we're the Richmond chapter, we've had to really broaden, the focus of our events to attract alumni from all different demographics.
Perfect. Yeah, something that you said kind of tied into one of the questions that we received from board president-elect Michael Whitlow, and that's how do you balance doing different types of events like recognition versus fellowship, like the A10 events and the watch parties, versus like community service. So how do you kind of balance the number of the types of different events that you're doing throughout the year in order to kind of find what works?
That's easy for us in the AAAC. I say that only because year over year over year, the African American Alumni Council was basically only known for its reunion weekend activities. So I kind of think we had a stigma that we were more of a social party type of organization. So when I came in as president, I told Larry Powell that I wanted to mix it up. I wanted to do a lot of different things to try to grow our image on campus and in the community. So not only do we have an enhanced reunion weekend, we do things like we support local food pantries. We've partnered with SunTrust Bank. We've partnered with other organizations that's worked with VCU, such as Food More. We have partnered or participated with the Richmond, what is the 1 mile, the VCU 1 mile, and we've taken collections up for that. And we've done a host of different things to kind of broaden, what we do to try to grow our name, image, and participation on campus.
One thing I'd add as far as how to plan different events and how to, space them out or prioritize social versus community service is we really, among our chapter leaders, we have a call once a month, and we will hear from each person on the leadership team and see what's coming down the pipeline. Where we've gotten for example, we've gotten a tip from Sarah that such and such local restaurant is owned by a owned by a VCU alum, and they'd be interested in hosting us. So that's a great connection and a great way to get going with an event. Or our big kind of annual events that really turn out everybody are the biggest one is the Nats Day. It's VCU Day at Nats Park. And we have a couple hundred folks for a pre-game event and then the game. So we have our annual events that are coming down the pipeline, or our year over year. And then for community service, we try to average about 2 events per year in the spring and fall. And we're right now focusing on doing something similar each year, making that an annual piece for our chapter. And then in addition to seeing what's coming down the pipeline, also finding ways to add a little bit of depth to the events. We talked about networking component to a professional development session, but also for one of our VCU basketball watch parties, we did a little food drive, bring a canned food item just at this one event to give to a local food bank. I think it was right before Thanksgiving, that watch party. So that's why we did that. So finding ways to add as much as you can within each individual event.
Thank you. And I know Richmond chapter has a whole host of different types of events. So how do you all manage kind of the schedule? There's only but so much time in a year to do certain events. So how do you all space out the types of events that you're doing?
Yeah, I think the most important part of all that is planning ahead. So building out your calendar in advance certainly helps you. You sit back and look, and if you have a bunch of social events, how do we add the fellowship events? How do we add the service events, the recognition events? And so I think planning out things in advance certainly helps. And then when you think about, I guess, finding the balance, I think the most simple thing is to ask. Ask your membership and the people that come out to events, what do you want to see? Because if they want, I'm sure there's other people that want to see it. So I think sometimes we've had the best success in identifying what people want to do by holding our annual meeting. And, last year we had 60 or 70 people come out, many faces we had never seen before, to kind of hear about what they were looking for, the events they were looking for, diving down. It's kind of like a working meeting, but I think things like that can really help. And even doing something as simple as a survey of people that have come to your events to ask them what they're looking for, I think is really important.
Absolutely. And Joey, I think you touched on, and Andrea, I think both of you touched on kind of working with sponsors for events or having alumni that might be business owners do some sort of sponsorship for your event. Ike from DMV wants to know if you have any tips on fundraising or sponsorships that you can share with our chapter leaders that might be wanting to start to get into that.
Yeah, so Joey, we're looking at you.
And so my recommendation is to talk to Timmy Wynn.
Yeah.
Timmy Wynn is the guru of sponsorships. You can probably see him in this chat right now, so be sure to add him and ask him. But no, I think Timmy's found great success reaching out to people, but it's really the events we're doing. Like if we're going to do a watch party and we're going to a restaurant or bar, reaching out to that group and saying, hey, we're going to do 3 or 4 of these events. Would you be willing to give us $500 or whatever it is? Any money you're getting is more money than you had before. And so I think restaurants, of course, right now because of COVID could be a little bit tough. But over the years, Timmy's built great partnerships. There's people on the VC alumni staff like Booth, who focus strictly on sponsorship. So having a conversation with Booth about how potentially your chapter could plug into that and just the things that you're trying to do. Alumni in your groups. A lot of people have sponsorship dollars through their companies. A lot of people are trying to build up their own networks. So sometimes just asking them, would you be willing to host an event? And people have budgets to spend on drinks and appetizers. So most importantly, talk to Timmy Wynn, talk to Booth Green on the VC alumni staff, and then just think about your events and think about the companies that you're using for your events and just make the ask.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think something that goes hand in hand with that ask is offering or explaining the value that VCU alumni can bring to their business, the audience that you have and kind of the consistency that you can show that will get those sponsors more business in the long run. So just kind of, making it clear about what value that VCU alumni can bring to them.
And I think the 3 easiest things are, telling them we can add your logo to our emails that go out for events. We can add your logo to our website, and we can bring people into your establishment. And that's, those are the 3 simple sells right there. And you get the exposure factor, and then you get people in the door. And that could be a really important element when we're coming out of a post-COVID, pandemic, when people are trying to bring back, customers, or you're trying to educate customers on your brand or your services. Bringing people in the door is sometimes half the battle. So if you're offering that for, a smaller amount, to them that they would, go pay to market themselves, I think it's a good deal that people are willing to take you up on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll echo that Timmy from Richmond chapter has been awesome with securing sponsorships. So I do see him in the chat. So add him as a friend or, slide in his messages if you have any questions. Cool. So speaking of kind of some COVID challenges, Jessa from our Triangle, North Carolina chapter wants to know if you all can discuss any best practices or examples of virtual events or any type of virtual engagement that you've done either recently or kind of in the span that your chapter has been in existence. For example, I know the AAAC has a mentoring circle that has gone kind of virtual as of late. So if there's any that you've done that can be, done remotely.
And also in the African American Alumni Council, because we were not able to have our reunion weekend this year, we do want to have some type of all-inclusive social event On June the 11th, we're going to have a virtual wine tasting activity where one of our alumni is going to sponsor that activity. The email blast about that should be going out around June the 9th. So it's not the 11th, but it is sometime in calendar June. We're going to have that. The mentoring circle will be having a virtual activity over the summer and in the fall. And basically this COVID-19 opportunity has given rise to our thinking that everything that we do within the AAAC should have a virtual presence, of some sort. So we're going to try to build in, having a virtual online presence in support of all of our activities in some form or another.
Nice.
Well, it goes without saying that we're kind of in unprecedented times. So I've been pretty thankful that we've built up our social media and online presence over the past year or so, so that can continue to be an effective voice for us during this time. And I already mentioned looking to the alumni office for guidance on just simple logistical things. We're definitely in a new frontier, and personally, I'm sick of screens a little bit, but that's why I like to spend time outside walking the dogs and enjoy my non-screen time. But it is a part of life, and it can be a fun part of life too. So I will just do the very earliest preliminary plug for the DMV chapter's upcoming future virtual event, which is going to be in the fall. We're currently in talks with the Douglas Wilder School and their alumni network to put together a elections 2020 webinar that will be panelists, either Wilder School faculty or local leaders in our area who have their finger on the pulse of the presidential and other elections and how those are being affected by COVID-19. So that won't be until probably September, maybe October, but we're looking forward to our first virtual event. There may be one before then too, but that's the big one.
As well as the virtual wine tasting AAAC. I need to get that registration form so I can attend.
Okay.
Looking for that email to hit my inbox. Okay, and Joey, do you want to touch on any virtual events that you're thinking about doing or considering or have done maybe in the past?
No, but I would say the only thing to add is, since it is virtual, promote it to other chapters. I mean, I think that was a great plug for the DMV chapter and the AAAC. It's like, these aren't regional events. So if you have a really good speaker or a really good idea, you're going to host a really good webinar, be sure to promote that to other groups so they can promote that to their members as well, because it's just a matter of, signing on to a computer.
Absolutely. That's one of the pros of virtual events, is that you're not tied to, like you said, a region or traffic. So it's awesome. And I'm glad that we're kind of on the platform so we can share with other chapter leaders so they can support. And I see in the comments, Parks just made a plug for our virtual engagement resources webinar that's on YouTube. So if you check out the Volunteer Leaders YouTube page, you can have access to a lot of our past trainings, which includes the virtual engagement training. So my last question for you, we have a few minutes left, is kind of what's the number one piece of advice that you would give maybe a new chapter leader for being successful with leadership and growing your chapter? What's the number one thing you would say?
I can start with that one. I would say, for me, the best growth I've had is by looking and identifying my own weaknesses as a leader, and then being lucky to surround myself with people that can kind of complement me as a leader. So I've been lucky in many years to have, now I would say, Timmy surrounding me that really help out in a lot of different areas. I think that's really important because you're kind of blind sometimes to your own weaknesses. So having people that, for instance, are good at marketing or good at sponsorships makes my job even easier as a leader. And I think most importantly, it's, the looking at defining success. So what is success for your chapter or you as a leader? And it's easy to get distracted by, we didn't have this many people come, or that speaker wasn't that good. But I think continuing to build out your connections in your organization, and most importantly, making impact in the VC alumni lives is the most important part that we do on a day-to-day basis. So I think making sure that you're defining success in proper ways is an important thing you can do as a leader.
Right, absolutely. Success for a chapter that just started out might look very different than, success for one of our biggest chapters that we have. So that's important to note. Any other number one pieces of advice you all would offer?
Bring a passion, stay motivated.
Please stay with us.
Yeah, my advice looks very similar to those. It's you're always making progress, so don't get down on yourself if something didn't go how you wanted it to, and keep bringing the passion.
Yes, thank you all so much. As I mentioned towards the beginning of the panel, thank you for sticking around with us. First of all, the global pandemic crisis is a challenge in itself, and we're so glad that even through, some of the tough times and tough decisions that we've all had to make, that you all are still here, watching this webinar, participating with us and communicating with us, and we really, really appreciate it. And just keeping in mind that what we're doing is for the greater good for our alumni and everybody that graduates from VCU or is attending VCU right now, doing good for them in the future. We just have to keep that in mind and stay motivated. So I really appreciate you all being here, and I really want to thank our panelists for being with us tonight. You all are awesome. One of the questions that came through the chat is, can other chapters share events that chapters are doing that are virtual and might not be specific to a certain region? And I would definitely say yes. I feel like alumni can only benefit more from participating and seeing what each group is doing, and just that awareness that there are multiple different groups is awesome. I mean, would you all say that you're comfortable with that and having, multiple audiences join in on those virtual events that you all are having?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I want to say yes, as long as we have capacity and we get all of our ducks in a row logistically so that it doesn't crash, but yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah says she'd also suggest asking other chapters to share on their Facebook pages and make other relevant chapters co-hosts of the Facebook event, so we'll show on their pages. That's a really good piece of advice. It only expands the eyes that land on your event on social media. Perfect. I mean, is there anything else that you all would like to offer or say to our other chapter leaders before we sign off for the evening?
Best of luck. You got this.
So we all feel your pain sometimes as leaders. So, just make sure that you reach out to us if you ever want to talk through ideas, because I think all of ours, goal at the end of the day is to engage alumni and create that experience. So if you ever have any questions on best practices, reach out to people, like Timmy Wynn that can help out with sponsorships. We can put him to work.
Absolutely. Well, keep networking. I know you're seeing names pop up in the comments and stuff. There's a list of chapter leaders and their organizations on the VCU Alumni website. If you go to organizations, you can find contact information, or reach out to the staff if you want to get plugged in with the chapter. We can definitely give you contact information and keep that networking going. Remember to check out the VCU Alumni Leaders YouTube page. One of the more recent trainings that's up there is about student and recent graduate programs and kind of what our office offers for those groups and how you can also get involved in supporting students and recent graduates. So with graduation having just passed and our class of 2020 having probably one of the unusual graduation experiences that you could ever have. Take a look at that and just check out some things that maybe we and your chapters could do to continue supporting students and those who have recently graduated from VCU. So thank you all so much. I can't express how much I really appreciate you all doing this. I know we're all tired of screens like Andrea touched on, but we really thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you so much. Everybody
Take care. Be
Thanks,
healthy.
Stephanie. Have a good night.
Bye.